What is going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with another market recap video. It is November 23rd, 2020. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today we're going to be talking about the price action in the indices, the volatility. We're going to check out the sectors and style factors, some of the trades I took, and then we'll wrap up with some options order flow. But before we jump in, quick risk disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan. And last but not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So today we had a couple different dynamics going on and a couple of headlines driving the action. We had, our typical Monday morning auto gap, as I like to call it, where, typically over the past couple months and really since the coronavirus crash, there is some pretty good performance on that Monday gap. We had a vaccine headline coming down the pipeline this morning. And then we also had the news that Janet Yellen is going to be the new Treasury Secretary. And that's pretty good news for markets because while she was the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, she was very dovish. So I think that's good in terms of like keeping QE going and really just keeping these easy money policies going. So let's take a look at what we have here. So if we look at the S&P 500 first, we can see S&P 500 closed up 0.6%. We had the Qs that closed, completely flat, unchanged. Then we had the Russell Small Caps, IWM, up 1.87%. Those are our big winner today. And we have the Dow Jones up 1.15%. So if we take a look at the ES, we have been stuck in a range for quite some time. So we had our bearish sequence before the election. We had a very bullish sequence post-election. And you can see that we've been chopping really between around 3,500 and 3,640 on the ES. And as of about last week, we got into an even more narrow range. So you can see I have, these two light blue bars here, and that is really where we've been chopping around in. So if we take a look, we are still above the monthly value area. We're above the key moving averages, and today we actually reclaimed the 5-day exponential moving average. So technically we are looking pretty strong right now, and we are in an uptrend. I have been focusing in on, mostly the 1 hour chart just because of that, tight range we've been in for the past couple of days. Because I do think that once we break through this range, that's where you could see a nice move either to the upside or the downside. So let's take a look. So you can see we were chopping last week. Then we had the head of, New York down, and it brought us down a couple notches, and we've been chopping sideways ever since. So I have this blue bar right here off. The level is around 35.83 last week. And then to the downside, we have this number right here, which is about 35.67.75, which is the weekly value area low. So this is not the worst situation because these levels are all pretty close together. So you can basically, while we're, messing around in this range right here, I'm sort of being a bit more neutral and a bit conservative. But if I do see that we're breaking to the downside, like it looked like we were earlier today, that's where I would probably get a little bit more bearish. And if we break out to the upside, above this blue bar right here, the 35.83 level, that is where I would likely get a bit more bullish. And the thing is, I've been talking about how sentiment, is very hot. And when you look at a lot of the positioning data, you can tell there's a lot of people that are fully invested. But if this wants to keep moving to the upside, we break above that 35.83, I certainly want to align myself with the trend. But, on the other hand, if we break, below the monthly value or below the weekly value area low, again, I want to make sure that I am not on the wrong side. So this, beginning this trade week, I'm just trying to not take on too many trades and really just wait until we get out of this range. Let's take a look. We'll look at the Qs. Let's take a look at the daily chart for the Qs. Yeah, the Qs are really being weighed down by Apple. So let's take a look. Yeah, the Qs actually tested the monthly value area high today. So, this is still looking bullish. It's above the monthly value area. This one actually closed below the 5-day exponential moving average. So you can tell the QQQ is no longer leading the market. Now let's take a look at IWM. This one was the big winner, and this one is just showing a lot of relative strength. So if we take a look, with the other indices, they had a nice bullish sequence after the election, and they've really just been consolidating. This one actually really just continued that bullish sequence. And I actually added a hedge on, on this red candle day right here due to those New York City or New York shutdowns. But it looks like this one just wants to continue higher. So we can see we have this Venom R2 pivot here at 185 in terms of an upside target. But this one, yeah, for sure, it looks the most bullish out of all of them. So I'll have to figure out, moving forward, if I want to stick with that hedge or if I should just close it for a small loss and maybe move my hedge over to something like the Qs. So we'll have to see. But this one, it certainly looks pretty bullish. And then the Dow is probably going to look, pretty similar to the small caps. Yeah, this one is looking pretty similar. It's not really the leader in the market. It looks more similar to the Qs where it's just consolidating. But the Dow does have some more of those value and cyclical names than does the QQQ, which is just all technology. And really it's very concentrated with COVID winners. So let's take a look under the hood. We'll check out some of the sectors and style factors and see if we can get, a better picture as to the price action for today. So I'm going to bring this into presentation mode. And you can see these were some pretty fantastic moves that we had. So if you look, our top sectors here, ranked in terms of momentum, are energy, global autos, and I rarely see anybody talking about the global autos, that cars ETF, the cannabis ETF, YOLO, and we have the solar energy ETF, which is the TAN. And you can see energy was up 7% today, and that brought the monthly performance to 17%. So energy is having really like a blow-off move. Let's actually take a look at that ETF. I want to see what that one is looking like. So let's look at XLE. Okay, wow, this is a really nice move for XLE. And it makes intuitive sense because as we get these vaccine headlines and the vaccine, starts to roll out, we should have more mobility within society, more people that can jump on airplanes, more people that can, travel to different places. So it makes sense that energy is getting a boost here. And you can see, this thing has really been stair-stepping up. It's well beyond the monthly value area, had a nice big green candle, and the next upside target looks like it's at around $40 per share. This one is certainly looking very interesting. And to be honest, it doesn't look super, super extended. Like we had a nice couple days of consolidation before this big green candle. So I'll definitely be looking at this one, moving forward. And then let's take a look again. Let's take a look at the sectors that don't really have as much momentum. We can see those are medical devices, utilities, and gold miners. And gold miners are getting taken to the woodshed, down another 4% and change today. So yeah, you can see another one that looks, pretty interesting. We have KWeb, which was down 0.92%. Now, I believe there were some negative headlines coming out of the administration today about, going harder on China. That is another one I'll be looking for, where typically whenever those negative China headlines come out, typically it presents a nice dip buying opportunity. So I'll be looking at that one as well. Let's take a look at the style factors. They tell a very similar story where we had high beta up 4%. So that is a massive move today, where the cyclical is up 2.45%, and the laggards were defensives and Minvol. So you can really tell, you know, as much as I was saying the sentiment looks very hot and the positioning is very hot, this market in terms of what's going on under the hood, it's very risk on and very geared towards those cyclicals and the reopening plays. So let's take a look at some trades that I put on today. Earlier today I put on the PayPal calls. I chose the 200 strike Januaries for $9.85. This one just looked awesome. Let's take a look at this one. So like PayPal, this one I had an alert set. The alert went off and I just had to take it. So you can see here, PayPal has been trading within a range. It has been one of the COVID winners, but this one is certainly not falling apart like some of the others. So to be honest, this one is great for playing, like when you get towards the bottom end of the range, you can initiate a long entry. And then as you get towards the top, maybe that's where you can start trimming. But really what I saw was, we had this one fall down. And really it's just been chopping ever since. And it's been jumping into the value area, out of the monthly value area. And it just looked like on Friday, it was like right on the cusp of jumping back in. And it had been testing that level for a couple days. So this one just looks super interesting. And then the other little sweetener on PayPal is it sort of gets like this Bitcoin bid where, the CEO is pretty vocal about, being open to cryptocurrency. And there have been some headlines and news around, PayPal. You can send crypto around now. So whenever there's like really hot sentiment around Bitcoin, you can see PayPal and Square, move in sympathy a little bit. And there's other companies that do that too. Like there's one called Riot, but that one is like a micro cap, super speculative company. So given that this one looks pretty strong technically, it's very strong fundamentally, and you sort of get that Bitcoin bid, this one just made a lot of sense to me. And you can see that we closed above the monthly point of control today. So I'm going to be watching for a test of the value area high at around $206.36. And that is where I would consider, maybe I want to take a target in this position or really just reevaluate from there. The other trade that I jumped into today was I entered some SPY weekly puts as a hedge on, the rest of my portfolio. I went with a 354 puts for $2.06. And as you can see, really what prompted this one was earlier today. So I've been talking about this very tight range we're trading in on the S&P 500. And if you take a look at what we had earlier today, we've been testing this range, to the upside as well as the downside. And earlier today we were getting, this ugly hourly candle where it was like, okay, we just jumped out of the weekly value area, and the next downside target that I can see is the low end of this range at around 3,540. So that really, for this hedging trade, that is really my target, where if we test the other side of the range at some point during this week, that's where the hedge would kick in, and that's where I'll think about taking a profit. But you can see throughout the rest of the day, we got strong red candle, and then we had the news of Janet Yellen being the new Treasury Secretary, and the market really blew off. When that happened, we got this push up to the high end of the range at 35.83, and I was like, okay, let's see if we follow through here or if we don't. And sure enough, we just bounced off that level, and it was met with selling. So I do think this hedge is still in play, but to be honest, this one gives me some cover throughout the rest of the week, where I feel a little bit more comfortable doing long entries, even though sentiment is a little bit extended, just because I do have the hedge on the books. And then the last trade that I put on, this one, I actually closed this one out. This was my Nikola trade. The other day, this was, I believe it was on Friday. There there was like some headline in the pre-market for Nikola. And I just saw it pop up and I was like, this one has such high short interest that I'm just going to jump into some of the commons and really see where it takes me. So this one you can see Nikola. This one was like a picture perfect trade in my opinion. Where, check this out. So Nikola, it's above the monthly value area. And you can see we consolidated here for about 2 days. And this one had a nice up move today. But when we got that Janet Yellen headline, this one, had that little extra push to it. And you can see our R1 pivot level, which is usually where I like to take targets. That level was at 29.41. The stock tagged that level. And Nikola, in my opinion, is not a high quality name. It's very speculative. The former CEO, is essentially a complete fraud. So this is a name where, I'm just looking to play it for like a very short swing. And as soon as I hit my target, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get out of this trade. It's just not a name that I feel super comfortable with. This one could continue to run, because there are headlines coming out about GM. And, they're moving forward with their, electric vehicles. And Nikola is supposedly going to be used for those. But to be honest, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take my target and exit this trade. So that was a good one, up about 10%. So some tickers that I'm going to be watching. We have Tesla, KWeb, which I mentioned earlier, and Apps, which is one of my favorite names. So let's take a look at Tesla. Okay, we're on our daily chart. So Tesla is really on the move. There was the news that they were going to be added to the S&P 500, and that resulted in this, big green candle right here. Or I believe it was this day where you got a huge gap up, it sold off, but then sure enough, that momentum move started. And for Tesla, I have a broken wing called Butterfly that is targeting this R2 pivot at 550 for the end of the week. So for me, if we get well beyond 550, that's where I would actually lose the trade. I believe beyond 555, that's where I start losing, and at 560, I have a max loser. So this one I'm going to be watching very closely. This one, it had a really nice move, but at this point, I'm like, all right, I want you to move up to 550, but I don't want you to move much farther than that. So, it'd be nice if we just kind of dribble further up as the week goes. But Tesla is such an unpredictable stock. And when people start spamming the calls in Tesla, that is when there could be a very large move. And I posted, everyone just getting into calls earlier today. And that, you can get some explosive moves off that. So we'll just have to see what happens with Tesla. And then Apps, this is, my favorite one. This one I wrote a research report on. I posted it on Twitter. And you can see this one looks beautiful as well. This one is in a nice uptrend. You can see we had a nice move up after the election, fell down, and we tested the monthly point of control. We dipped below it, but very quickly, moved back above. And you can see now we sort of have this nice like cup forming, and we are above the monthly value area high. So this one is looking great. If it wants to make that next leg higher, this is certainly the time to do it. I do have a position in the common shares, and to be honest, I'll also be looking to initiate some calls if this one follows through tomorrow. So again, that's another one where we'll just have to see. And then let's take a look at some of the options order flow for today before we wrap up here. So let's check it out. Okay, so just to start off, we had 67% call flow, 33% put flow. And I've been noticing really for the past week or so, we have been seeing, a lot more call flow than put flow. So that's sort of like a yellow flag. But in terms of momentum, who knows? We could get a crazy move. So let's check out, we'll look at the orders $1 million and above. Okay. Wow, a lot of activity today. So let's dissect some of the some of the big movements here. So we have Tesla, of course. Tesla was very in play. You can see there's people putting on calls for January of 2022. So this person, they went with a 450 strike, which, is in the money. And they threw down about $10 million. So this is really just like, I want, delta exposure to Tesla. It's not a super speculative play. You can see there were a couple of players, doing very similar strategies. We had NEO, which also showed, very significant momentum today. This player bought the 43 strike calls for, this week. So this is like, much more short term, just a momentum play. Let's take a look at what NEO did today. I believe NEO did have a really nice move. And this is a stock that I love trading. Okay, yeah, NEO had a really nice move. So up 12%. I affectionately call this stock the bloated pig, but it just keeps moving up. And we tagged the upper Bollinger Band today. So this is just a really nice move. Let's see what else we got. So we had those NEO players. Okay, we got Run here. Run, I believe, is a solar name for 1.1 million. Solar stocks, that is one of my favorite groups. I do have some calls in the solar energy ETF. And I'm always looking at that space for, individual names as well. Okay, so Run, it doesn't look like it's exactly leading the group, but we did have somebody put in some calls. Let's see SPWR. This is another one I've been looking at. Okay, yeah, this one continues to melt up. Let's take a look at, okay, we got some GE calls. Facebook Palantir has been very popular, a $2.7 million order. Okay, and Plug as well. That one, I believe, is one of the leaders in solar. Yeah, so this one, beautiful candle again. This is one of those where it's like, I'm sure I'm going to jinx it right now, but it's like, it looks extended, but it's one of those names where you just got to like, plug your nose and buy it because this thing just doesn't stop moving. So I'll have to see again. That one is also on my watch list. And, if we ever got any sort of corrective move, I'd probably be all over that one. So that being said, that is about it for Cheddarflow. Just want to remind everyone, Cheddarflow is having their Black Friday sale where you get 40% off. It is a very good deal, so if you are interested in trialing Cheddarflow, I am going to post my affiliate link in the description to this video. Feel free to click the link and give it a shot. If not, I always like posting the content for you guys for free and going through it, after market as well. So no pressure either way. But that about does it for my market recap video. Again, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to talking with you all tomorrow.